She's now in the wine business, right? She's taking on Dan Murphy's, and she's a lot more expensive, actually. Each bottle of this is $30 each.
It was meant to be her triumph. A fresh image, a graceful transformation, the picture-perfect return. Meghan Markle's blush-toned rose was crafted to exude ease and elegance, Montecito charm in a glass. But instead, a stark royal reality. Hit. And not just from public skeptics. The sting came from the very family she believed she had moved beyond, or perhaps outmaneuvered. Right as Meghan introduced her enigmatic rose, King Charles's Highgrove Gardens quietly revealed their own sparkling wine launch. No fanfare, no influencers, no Instagram theatrics, just refined bottles with every penny supporting charitable causes.
So that's $90 US to get her Napa Valley Rosé. Now, apparently it's very nice. I'm sure it is lovely.
But launching an alcohol product on Princess Diana's birthday, it's not tone deaf. It's incredibly insensitive.
And then the internet lit up. At first glance, it seemed like a clash of wine empires. On one side stood Meghan Markle with her mysterious American Riviera orchard. All curated aesthetics, but no vineyard in sight. On the other, Highgrove, a respected estate with more than 10 years of polished, reliable wine production and full transparency. Yet the true narrative wasn't just about bottles. It was about perception, trust, and what unfolds when a dreamlike lifestyle brand collides head-on with a family enterprise steeped in tradition and heritage.
The incredible poor taste, and there is nothing this woman won't do to chase a headline. And I think it's an absolute disgrace that Harry is not standing up and saying, enough's enough, Meghan, that is just one step too.
Meghan supporters cried foul, insisting the royal family had deliberately timed their release to overshadow hers. But let's be clear, Highgrove has been producing rose since 2017. English Wine Week isn't some new invention. And Meghan? Well, she's hardly the trailblazer she's presenting herself as. Still, that didn't stop her devoted fanbase from spiraling. They accused King Charles of everything from copying her brand to waging psychological warfare all over sparkling wine. But look closer, and the story doesn't quite hold. Meghan's rose wasn't made to withstand competition because it was never intended to. It was designed to peddle an illusion. No vineyard info, no production transparency, just pink fizz, a chic logo, and the suggestion of luxury without the depth. Even the sold-out frenzy felt suspicious. A tiny initial batch vanishing overnight. That's not real demand. That's engineered scarcity. Clever packaging, cloaked in royalty. And this is where the narrative begins to truly unravel.
You know, we really didn't know what was in the bottle. And not only did we not know, there was no way to find out. You can't turn around a bottle of wine and see the list of ingredients. We were like, well, what's in it? And more so, organic vegetables and fruits, organic produce. We have clean skincare. Everything's sort of non-toxic and organic in our home, but we never even questioned.
While Meghan's brand plays a game of hide and seek with its sourcing, Highgrove puts it all out there, from grape type to harvest year to how the wine is crafted. That's not just openness, it's earned credibility. Meghan, on the other hand, relies heavily on mystique and curated aesthetics. Her branding feels like a Pinterest board come to life. Polished visuals, designed to distract from the mystery of what's actually in the bottle. And when you're charging premium prices, that lack of clarity becomes a serious issue. Because eventually, even the most beautiful label gets stripped away. And when that happens, you'd better have something authentic underneath. You might assume this is the conclusion, a simple contrast between a royal family's wine release and a former duchess's clumsy lifestyle shift. But you'd be mistaken. What followed next turned a branding misstep into a full-scale public relations unraveling, exposing the harsh reality behind Meghan Markle's attempted image overhaul. This is where it stops being about rose and becomes a masterclass in how reputation management can fall apart.
The other thing I just found so astonishing about the wine launch specifically is that she's forcing people to buy a minimum of 3 bottles.
For $90.
It's greedy. It's encouraging binge drinking.
Meghan Markle didn't just unveil a bottle, she introduced a storyline. Every photo, every caption, every slow-motion swirl of her elusive rose was soaked in meticulous branding. Picture soft linens, vintage cutlery, blooming gardens. Pure lifestyle fantasy. But beneath the dreamy aesthetic, the details, or lack thereof, told a very different tale. No mention of the vineyard, grape, varietal, or production location. Just a sleek brand name, a lofty price, and a faint air of exclusivity. The irony. The louder the campaign shouted authenticity, the clearer it became that no one actually knew what they were sipping. And the internet caught on quickly. Within mere hours of Highgrove's understated rose announcement, side-by-side comparisons flooded social media. One Twitter user posted 2 screenshots, Highgrove's straightforward site listing every wine detail beside Meghan's enigmatic, sold-out landing page devoid of any sourcing. Another highlighted that Highgrove had been crafting wine since 2012, well before Meghan trademarked her first artisanal jam. That's when the tide turned. Because while Highgrove's wines supported charity, Meghan's rose came bundled with hefty global shipping fees, unclear batch counts, and influencer-coded secrecy. A picture-perfect fantasy, but with no substance behind the shine. And it didn't stop there.
Most of the royal household told me it's not lost on Prince William that Meghan has launched an alcohol brand on his mother's birthday, the very mum he lost in a drink-driving tragedy. To launch an alcohol brand on Diana's birthday, it felt to him pointed, or at the very least, shockingly tone-deaf.
Meghan's defenders didn't just back her launch, they tried to rewrite the narrative altogether. Suddenly, fan blogs were tweaking timelines in real time. New claims popped up, suggesting Meghan had pioneered the entire royal adjacent wine trend, despite Highgrove having launched theirs nearly 10 years earlier. Some even floated the theory that the palace had deliberately timed their release to undercut her momentum. But here's the twist. Highgrove's English Wine Week promotion wasn't a strategic attack. It was part of a nationally recognized calendar planned and published months ahead, completely transparent and expected. Meanwhile, Meghan never officially launched her wine. She let rumors circulate, betting that exclusivity would spark desire. Instead, it stirred doubt. And the wildest part? As Meghan's brand unraveled under public questioning, Highgrove remained silent. No rebuttals, no press releases, no reactive posts, just quiet poise and a steady rise in sales. That silence spoke volumes. It said, "We don't need to fight, we just deliver." And on social media, that quiet confidence rang louder than Meghan's stylized claps or carefully staged fruit platters. While her camp worked overtime to steer the narrative, the royals didn't lift a finger. The contrast was striking, one built on heritage and reliable grace, the other on theatrical branding and overstretched storytelling. And here's the element almost everyone missed, the piece that flips this entire saga upside down.
How is this legal or ethical? And according to Taz had a theory on this, Angela. She said so she's used the same scam as last time, takes too much money for products she doesn't have. So I mean, this jam scam is just getting worse by the day.
Meghan Markle's American Riviera orchard didn't just take cues from Highgrove's playbook, it practically mirrored it. From the elegant script font on the labels to her choice of product, artisanal rose, soon followed by luxury jam. Every step in her launch felt like an echo of Highgrove's well-established catalog. But where Highgrove stands on the pillars of clarity and charity, Meghan's brand leaned on illusion. Even the name she picked sounded like a gated community, mixed with a boutique wellness retreat. American Riviera Orchard wasn't a wine label, it was a vibe. And that's exactly what led to its unraveling. She attempted to sell aspiration without offering substance, and the public picked up on it. Whispers began circulating that the wine wasn't crafted in-house but sourced from a white-label distributor. In plain terms, she didn't make it. She branded it. No estate ownership, no private vineyard, no unique fermentation process, just a standard rose in designer packaging. As wine insiders started looking deeper, what they discovered, or more precisely, what they couldn't find, spoke volumes. No official production license, no vineyard registry, and zero sourcing transparency. One retailer reportedly asked for background details and got nothing in return. Meanwhile, Highgrove's bottles came labeled with exact vineyard plots, alcohol percentages, and even grape harvesting methods. This wasn't just a different marketing style, it was a fundamentally different world. And then came the unexpected silence. Influencer friends who once proudly reposted every teaser and preview suddenly stopped tagging her brand. Media outlets that used to praise her polished aesthetic began using neutral, even skeptical language. Some former supporters began asking hard questions about the company's evasive practices. Was this truly a wellness-inspired luxury brand, or just another vanity project in disguise? Hidden amid all this scrutiny was a detail that many missed but was legally significant. Meghan hadn't filed any FDA disclosures for her consumable goods. For someone shipping food and alcohol across state lines, that's not just a technical oversight, it's a potential legal disaster. And considering she's already faced public pushback over inflated claims and intellectual property issues, the silence here wasn't just suspicious, it was damning. Then came perhaps the most surreal comparison. Fans began likening Meghan to Martha Stewart, not the real Martha. The business mogul with decades of hands-on product development, but the curated fantasy version, domestic icon turned luxury tastemaker. The difference? Meghan skipped the grind. She bypassed the cultivation, the sourcing, the sweat. She went straight for the photo shoot, the label, the table setting, the Instagram caption. But a lifestyle brand isn't born in front of a camera. It's built in the soil, in the cellars, in the long-term commitment to something real. Without that foundation, the rest just looked hollow. No matter how perfect the lighting was on Instagram, it couldn't cover the cracks. Just as Meghan's team began framing the wine release as a success story, actual customers started speaking out. A few boutique retailers quietly pulled the listing. One insider disclosed that bottles had been returned due to faulty seals and unclear labeling. An anonymous distributor revealed that Meghan's Rose was little more than generic table wine, sold at premium prices, dressed up in influencer aesthetics. That's when the murmurs turned into media headlines. Editors who once called her brand disruptive now labeled it directionless. And perhaps most damaging of all, Meghan never stood up for the product itself. She defended the story around it. Instead of clarifying anything about the wine, the taste, the sourcing, the vision, she doubled down on the aesthetic. More perfectly curated photos, more delicate pink backgrounds, more fruit trays. But not a single tasting note, not one pairing suggestion, not even a quote from a winemaker. It's just image over essence. Meanwhile, Highgrove's Rose quietly soared in popularity, not because it sold out in a flash, not because of artificial scarcity, but because it earned trust over time. Customers raved about the flavor, the mission, the honesty. Wine critics praised its craftsmanship, and royal followers couldn't help but make comparisons. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. When Meghan sells wine, it's a mystery in mood lighting. When Chaĺrles sells wine, it comes with a grape map and funds a charity. The internet had a field day. TikToks emerged comparing the two brands side by side. Meghan's bottle arrived wrapped in tissue with unclear labeling, while Highgrove's came with a booklet detailing every origin point and production step. People weren't just noticing the difference, they were laughing at it. But things deteriorated even further. In what appeared to be a frantic attempt to regain control of the situation, Meghan's PR team reportedly contacted various lifestyle influencers, offering free product in exchange for positive promotion, but it didn't go as planned. Some influencers gave vague unboxing videos that barely mentioned the wine. Others went public, sharing screenshots of suggested talking points from Meghan's PR firm, essentially light scripts, designed to guide their endorsements. The result? It all came off as staged, calculated, and worst of all, inauthentic. The exact opposite of what her brand promised to represent. And it was at this point that the whole enterprise began to crumble in plain sight. With each effort to force relevance back into the campaign, Meghan looked less like a polished entrepreneur and more like someone scrambling to hold together a fraying image. Here lies the cruel irony. The harder she pushed her stylized version of California luxury, the more audiences remembered what genuine elegance really looks like. Not curated filters, not exclusive batch launches, just timeless confidence and quiet consistency. Meghan had aimed to position herself as the face of a new kind of lifestyle empire. But when the facade slipped, all that remained was a label. No vineyard, no story, no roots. And in that moment, the fantasy dissolved. Because if your brand can't withstand a little competition from a royal charity wine drop, maybe it was never built to last. What followed was more telling than the launch itself. Meghan Markle made no official statement. She didn't address the origin of her wine. She never responded to the comparisons with Highgrove. Instead, she defaulted to the strategy she's used throughout each public setback since stepping away. From royal duty's retreat into curated silence. A few more beautifully staged posts appeared on her brand's Instagram page, but the comments beneath them painted a different picture. Her fans weren't applauding anymore. They were asking questions. Where is this wine produced? Why won't you say who bottles it? Is this even sold outside of Meghan's kitchen? Even her most dedicated supporters were struggling to maintain the illusion. Because the truth is this: consumers can forgive a mediocre product. What they won't forgive is being misled. And that's where the real damage was done. Not in the taste of the wine, but in the erosion of trust. Meghan didn't just launch a beverage, she launched a narrative, a new chapter of her personal murked brand. It was supposed to promise sophistication, honesty, and reinvention. But once the sheen wore off, all that remained were the same patterns. Ambiguous promises, media maneuvering, and the assumption that audiences wouldn't question too much. But they did. And what they found wasn't a vineyard-crafted labor of love. It was a marketing campaign posing as meaning. A luxury dream with no roots. And perhaps the most telling flaw of all, Meghan still doesn't seem to grasp the difference between being exclusive and being evasive. Highgrove didn't need viral marketing, tactics, or polished lifestyle photography. They relied on something more valuable: tradition, transparency, and proven trust. And that, not bubbles or hashtags, is what ultimately burst Meghan's rose fantasy. So what's next for American Riviera Orchard? It's hard to say. Maybe she'll reinvent again. Maybe she'll vanish behind the scenes. Or maybe, as some industry observers now predict, the brand will fade into the background, just like her podcast, her children's book, and the Archetypes trademark that barely saw a full season. But the lesson here is much bigger than wine. It's about authenticity, the kind you can't fake, can't Photoshop, and can't build on a vibe alone. Because sooner or later, every brand gets tested. When it's time to deliver, when scrutiny arrives, when comparisons are drawn, the truth bubbles to the surface. And in Meghan's case, it turns out the glass wasn't half full. It was mostly empty. But at least Highgrove poured theirs with purpose.